Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Proverbs, the 11th chapter. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So the subheading says, what contrast the upright and the wicked. Now, you do have the the idea of actual balance, right, between just everything you do. But in here is dealing with when you go into the ancient world, right, when you would, I mean, even today, right, when sometimes you go to, like a meat market and they weigh out whatever cut it is for you by pound. They actually weigh the substance, and then based on that, they give you the pricing. So in the ancient world, you had a balance, which was like a scale to weigh. And here, it's actually going to the word balance. you had people who would cheat others by using a false balance that was designed in a way where it would be in favor of the seller. So it says scales or balances, right? It would be in favor of the seller. And the weights that they would use, it says here, but a just weight is his delight. They would use weights where, say, for example, you have a weight, which is like an actual weight that's like 2 pounds, right? Now, somebody might take a 3-pound weight and label it as 2 pounds, you see? And then, or vice versa, right? They might take a 1-pound weight and label it as 2 pounds. And then when they put that on the balance, and then the part, whatever the person is buying, maybe it's grain, maybe it's meat, whatever it is they're buying, when they put the weight on the other side of the scale or the balance, it says it's a 1-pound weight. So it looks like you're buying, I don't know, 1 pound worth of meat, but you're actually buying 2 pounds, right? Or in the reverse. So if the seller is trying to cheat the buyer, maybe they might use a 1-pound weight and then label it 3 pounds. Okay, and so on. So long story short, either way it goes, I'm trying to think of how the numbers would play out, but either way it goes, it would mislead the buyer. So sometimes you end up paying for more than you're actually getting. And so that was also like, to a false balance, which is a deceit, basically. Okay, and that's why that's also an abomination to the Lord. But he delights in a just weight, because that is, you're dealing fair, right? You're not scamming or being fraudulent. So let's look at this in the in the NLT. The Lord detests the use of dishonest scales, but he delights in accurate weights. When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. And there's another precept that mentions, right, pride goeth before a fall, because eventually the proud, the Lord humbles them, and through that humility, they're shamed. But with the lowly, the meek, and the humble is wisdom. The integrity, and wisdom teaches you that, right? It teaches you to be humble and to be lowly. The integrity of the upright shall guide them. And how many times when you read in the Psalms did David mention his integrity, right? When he would ask the Lord, right, judge me or recompense me or try me according to my integrity. Because if you have integrity, let's go into that word integrity, and you live by that, you're going to be, found blameless. Oh, great. Okay, integrity means integrity. Wow, that's very helpful. Let's take a look at that over here. So it says the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles or moral uprightness. And what are those principles based on? The ways of righteousness given by Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai. Okay, so that moral uprightness and the ways of righteousness will uphold the upright, and it shall guide them. Because kind of like how Paul mentioned, he said the Gentiles which have not a law are a law unto themselves, meaning like their conscience tells them what's right and what's wrong. A man of integrity, his mind, if it's trained in righteousness, will guide him to do what's right and stay away from what's wrong. It says here, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. So the opposite is true. The inverse of that, which is a perverse mind trained in wickedness, brings forth transgressors, and that is going to destroy them, because it's going to instruct them on what to do, but that is going to be to their destruction or their demise. Verse 4, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. This wrath is the wrath of the Lord, because you know somebody may be angry at you, but you might be able to pacify them with money. How many times do you see like somebody borrows money, or somebody wrongs somebody else, and they're able to pay them off, right, to leave them alone? But when it comes to the wrath of the Lord, the Lord, he created gold, he created silver, he created the things that you use, and you as well. You're not going to be able to pay off a famine. Here it is. Judgment is coming your way, and you pull out a $20 bill. You tell them, look, I give you 20 now, and if you leave me alone, I might sweeten the pot and throw in another $5 on top of that. And the judgment is like, oh, hold up. Opens up his wallet and then puts in the money. No. Okay? You can't escape the wrath of the Lord with money. But what? Righteousness is what delivers from death. When you look at Noah wasn't saved because he was rich in money. It said he found grace in the sight of the Lord. Why? When Lot was delivered, it said he was just, not rich. It didn't say rich Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation, ended up being delivered. It said just Lot, which is righteous. Okay? The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, right? It's going to lead you. It's kind of like verse 3. But the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. Because the same very wickedness that the wicked follow after to gain whatever it is they're seeking, they don't realize that the side effects of that is death and destruction. Verse 6, the righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but the transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness, right? It's the same point that's being made here, reiterated in different words. When a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish. So all their plans, the things they have plotted, it all goes to the grave with them. And the hope of unjust men perisheth, right? The things that they look forward to, because they just like righteous, the wicked also look forward to things, except the wicked look forward to things going in their favor in wickedness. But that's going to perish. The Lord is going to bring their counsel and their expectations to naught. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. See, so an undesirable fate that may look like it's about to befall the righteous, the Lord will have it to where that righteous is delivered from it, and instead it comes upon the wicked. Right? I'm trying to see one example, right? Let's take one example here. And this isn't like a direct correlation, but if you look at Antiochus Epiphanes, at his death, Antiochus, before dying, was on his way to go and destroy Israelites and to torment them. And he was speaking so proudly against it. And guess what? The Lord delivered them and actually returned judgment, incurable, painful judgment on Antiochus himself. Okay? So, as it says, the wicked cometh in his stead. If there's a ill fate that is coming upon someone, the Lord will deliver the righteous from it, but allow the wicked to go through it. An hypocrite with his mouth destroyeth his neighbor, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. Okay? Because the words of an hypocrite, and this can manifest in many ways, right? With their words, the godless destroy their friends, whether it's by, bearing false witness, lying, or even leading them astray, enticing them to sin. Many ways in which their words can destroy their neighbor or their friends. But knowledge will rescue the righteous, right? But through knowledge shall the just be delivered. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of righteousness. When it goeth well with the righteous, the city rejoiceth. And when the wicked perish, there is a shouting, that is joy, rejoicing. Because people support the righteous, right? When it goes well with them, people support them and they root for them. But as it says, when the wicked perish, the people rejoice. Because nobody, like if you're watching a movie, right? when you watching a movie and the protagonist is not doing well, people are quiet. But when you get to the climax and he finally unlocks this new power, or he gets the upper hand, then people start getting hype, right? Because it's going well with the protagonist, who is looked at as the main character, or the righteous, or the good guy in the movie, right? And then finally, when he defeats the bad guy, everybody's happy. Yeah, finally, I hated that dude, man. Oh my gosh, I couldn't wait. See, by the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted. Like, also going back to the example, if anybody's watched Game of Thrones, if you haven't, it's a pretty good series. You can watch it. But for those that have watched it, spoiler alert, when you get to the part where they take out John, nobody's in there. Oh yeah, oh man, oh wow, I couldn't wait for that to happen to him. All right, whoever's watching is quiet, like damn, shit, wow, you know. But when you get to like a scene where Ramses, that demon, okay, the one who anyway, that demon, when he finally gets what's coming to him, everybody's happy. The second you mention that to anybody that watched Game of Thrones, you tell them, yo, you remember Ramses? Yeah, oh my gosh, no, don't bring him up. Man, some will even tell you, well, what happened to him wasn't enough. I wish they did worse. Verse 11, it says, by the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. See, so by the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, because the upright, they do, the scriptures say that through unrighteous dealings, right? And I think it's what riches gotten by deceit, but mainly through unrighteous dealings, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So the upright will not deal unrighteously and will establish the city, hence it will be exalted. But the wicked, by their mouth, their decree, and their actions, will be the cause of the overthrowing of that city. He that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. Let's take a look at that in the NLT. It is foolish to belittle one's neighbor. A sensible person keeps quiet. Because you never know, right? You never know who's who, and you never know, how the Lord views said individual, because it could be you end up in a position where this same neighbor that you belittled is in a place to help you, but then they might not. Because why should they? Verse 13, a talebearer revealeth secrets. That's somebody that tell, gossips. But he that is of a faithful spirit concealeth the matter, right? They can hold a secret. Where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. If you are taking action without counsel, you're eventually going to fall. You're going to make a wrong decision because you're not thinking things through. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety, because whatever decision comes out of that counsel is going to be sound, right? It's going to be reasoned out. It's going to be thought through thoroughly. Verse 15, he that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it. Smart is not, a good thing, right? It's going to that word smart. It says to be bad, to be evil, to be displeasing, to be sad, to be injurious, meaning that you're doing yourself hurt. When you're surety, it's like you're collateral, right? Or you are going to be responsible, if this person doesn't hold up to their end of the bargain. So if you put yourself as that, as surety for a stranger, you're doing harm to yourself. Because if that stranger goes and messes up, they come into you. If he doesn't pay back, it's like somebody going and borrowing money from a loan shark, and then you say, look, if he doesn't pay you back, you come to me, I'll give you the money. No. It says, and he that hateth suretyship is sure, right? They're stable, because you're not putting yourself at risk. Verse 16, a gracious woman retaineth honor, and strong men retain riches, right? Which is basically saying like a gracious woman keeps her honor just as a strong man keeps his wealth, right? The merciful man doeth good to his own soul. Yeah, if you're merciful and you show mercy to others, that's going to be a benefit to you. But he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. He that showeth no mercy shall receive no mercy. If you're cruel to others, what goes around comes around. Verse 18, the wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. Okay, and that's why they're known as the wicked. Right? And you want to see a good example, look at Esau. Look no further than Esau, Edom. All damn near everything they do is deceitful. Even when they're being so-called truthful is in deceit. They tell you they tell you the truth to work in a bigger lie, because a part of that plan of that lie is to tell you the truth at some point to gain your trust. It's all deceitful, right? But him that soweth righteousness, that's you plant righteousness. You when you sow righteousness, it's the things you do, and when you reap it, it's what you get in return. Shall be a sure reward, right? Meaning you're gonna get a sure reward. You're gonna be rewarded, in a in a good sense, right? It says, evil people get rich for the moment, but the reward of the godly will last, right? A wicked person earns deceptive wages, but the one who sows righteousness reaps a sure reward. And that deceptive wages is all part of their deceitful works. For whatever means it is to an end, it's still in deception, okay? But he that sows righteousness shall reap a sure reward. So their reward is not going to fail. Verse 19, as righteousness tendeth to life, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. Yeah, that righteousness tendeth to life, right? It leads to life, right? A sure reward, what is that, longevity of days? Because you stay out of trouble. You stay on the path of righteousness and the Lord will guide you. But he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. Because if you're seeking after evil, whether it's to do it unto others, it's going to come back to you. Verse 20, they that are of a froward heart, right, a perverse heart, a contrary heart, are abomination to the Lord, because they're not subject to the Lord, and they won't follow his ways. They're contrary to it. But such as are upright in their way are his delight. And those that are upright are those that follow in the way of the Lord. So of course they're going to be his delight. He's going to be pleased in them, just like you would be pleased in if you have a disobedient child versus an obedient child, you're going to be pleased in the one that's obedient. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. Right? Because if you join in we just read here, right, about he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. Right? We've literally been reading all about the work of deceitful men troubling them. Right? It says, he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. So the wicked are going to get a wicked end, a wicked demise. And if you join hand in hand with them and you're confederate with them, you're not going to be unpunished. You're also gonna partake of their judgment. But the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. As a jewel of gold is in swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. And what that means is it's basically a waste, right? A jewel is a valuable thing, but it's in a swine or a pig's snout. That jewel is attached to something that's undesirable, right? In the same sense, you know. And so basically, that's how a woman is without discretion. It's like a nice, beautiful vessel, but it's attached to this undesirable part. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. It says here, the godly can look forward to a reward, while the wicked can expect only judgment. And that's that wrath. Once again, you reap what you sow. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. Look in that, the NIV, it says, one person gives freely, yet gains even more, right? That's the scattereth. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. So you're stingy or you're holding back, penny pinching, and you would think that you would save more, but you end up losing more. The liberal soul shall be made fat. Oh, in fact, in Ecclesiastes 12:1, it says that, right? Cast thy bread upon the waters, and you will receive it again. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. And the liberal soul is like one that is a giver, right? Generous, a cheerful giver. The generous will prosper. Those who refuse others will themselves, who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. And fatness is not talking about your back become big, right? Being actual fat. It means like you're gonna have an abundance. And he that watereth shall be watered also himself, right? So if you water, it's likened onto, blessing or refreshing another, and the Lord is going to bless you in return. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. See, so if you have corn and let's say you harvested and you have a whole lot and you keep it all to yourself, as it says, the people shall curse him, but they're gonna bless the head of him that selleth it, because now they can have access to it, right? And this is like common wisdom. Verse 27, he that diligently seeketh good procureth favor, but he that seeketh mischief, it shall come upon him. Right? If you're diligently and constantly seeking good, you secure for yourself favor. Favor from who? Favor from the Lord. But he that seeketh mischief, if you're looking after evil deeds and mischief, that is what's going to come onto you. That's going to be your reward. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. You see, because the scriptures say, cursed is he who trusteth in man. They that trust in riches are trusting in carnal things. And we read in the fourth verse that riches profit not in the day of wrath. So if you trust in your riches, you're going to fall because you're not trusting in the Lord. But the righteous shall flourish as a branch, by being likened unto a tree that's planted by, by the side of a water. That branch is going to be strong and it's going to bear fruit. And why the righteous is going to flourish? Because they trust in the Lord. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. And troubling your own house to inherit the wind, when you inherit the wind, is like ending up with nothing, right? So your own household, if you don't take care of it, and you're like a tyrant, you stress out your own house, you're gonna lose everything. Okay, you're gonna inherit the wind, which is like having nothing left. And the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart, because he that is wise is gonna move in the way of wisdom and be promoted above him that is a fool. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. It says here, the seeds of good deeds become a tree of life. A wise person wins friends, right? And on a spiritual level, we are likened unto those that win souls. How are we winning souls? By teaching this word, right? The scriptures mention those that the angels repent. I mean, the angels rejoice at one sinner that repenteth. A sinner that repenteth is a soul that's won, okay? And likewise, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. And likening us onto the righteous, our fruit is the works that we do, all right? And the word that we teach, which is also likened onto a tree of life. Because pursuant to the dark saying in Revelation, the 11th chapter, before this word, before the spirit of life entered into us, we were dead, right? Their bodies shall be, their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. It's not literally dead, but it's dead in the spirit, right? Dead to understanding. Proverbs was at 21:16. And so the tree of life, or this knowledge, brings us back to life, makes us living before the Lord. Verse 31, behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth. And a recompense is a reward, right? Payment for your actions. Much more the wicked and the sinner, okay? So it says here, if the righteous are rewarded here on earth, what will happen to wicked sinners? NIV, if the righteous receive their due on earth, how much more the ungodly and the sinner? Because the ungodly and the sinner are also going to be recompensed, just not in the same manner as the righteous. They're going to get a reward according to their wickedness, and the righteous are going to get a reward according to their righteousness. And that brings us to the end of the book of Proverbs, the 11th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham, Rechak Udash. And until next time, Shalom.